Welcome back to Star Wars Nerds Unite, a discussion and review podcast focused on the new Star Wars canon. I am timvanautreve. Joining me, as always, are the hosts that people actually like on this show. Josh, what was it? What was the new nickname, Jenny? Josh Ace Mason.
No, Ace Mason.
Ace Mason.
Ace the Mace or something like that.
Star goalie for
Good one.
He said something during the game. He was like, he yelled Ace or Mace at you, and it was, I never heard him say that before.
That's kind of weird.
Mason looked astonishingly good as goalie in our recent rec league soccer game. What are you doing?
Our cord is... Sorry, we're doing some studio maintenance here.
I got it right here. What do we need the cord for?
Well, her microphone's pointed at me, so everything she just said sounded like she was 3 rooms over.
Well, it sounds like that anyway. Jennifer.
Yes.
You're on the show.
Yep.
She's also on our team.
Star defensive men for the Bear Island Bears. That's us.
Yep.
We're the only team in the league with a cool name.
Oh, jeez. Yep. We should have called ourselves the Fighting Minox.
Well, that didn't exist before.
That's true. Next year. All right. Today, Star Wars Nerds Unite. I'm going to start it with a teaser here. Something we've never done before. Get all the new listeners hyped. They're going to stay and listen.
Why would they not already know what this is about?
Because we are talking about Star Wars Aftermath Life Debt. And we are going to definitively answer the question that everyone's asking.
Who inspired you to do this?
And that is Fleet Admiral Gallius Rax actually Snoke?
This is clickbait.
I know.
He's not.
You can tune out now, guys.
I am not going to play into clickbait.
Come on.
As Tim promised, there's your answer. Good night.
I was going to make that our Twitter headline. Definitively answered in this podcast.
I don't like that.
I know. You don't like anything that would actually get us new listeners.
It's clickbait.
Yeah.
I don't want clickbait. I hate clickbait.
All right.
You sound like a salesman in that.
I was trying to. It was just a kid. It was a joke.
It was a kid.
It was.
That's what happens on any MTV show is they'll start the first 2 minutes with something like that, and then there's 30 minutes of commercials, and then nothing happens.
Uh-huh.
What MTV shows?
All of them. I haven't watched MTV in probably 10 years.
I don't know. I didn't even know they had shows.
That's all they have now.
Yeah, Jersey Shore. That's still on, right?
Old.
They started out as a music television, then they converted to television, and then they just stayed television. There's really nothing to do with music.
Yeah. I don't know what they have anymore.
I'm drinking out of my Star Wars The Force Awakens movie glass.
Where's it from?
Cup.
The movie theater.
From the movie theater.
It looks like the foil's like flaking off, or is that just condensation?
It's just condensation. Delicious condensation.
Yeah.
Josh, you wrote a book of notes on this book. But you are installing currently Nougat.
I am installing Nougat as we speak.
On your phone, which is how you access your notes. So all that note-taking was for naught. You got rejected by Wikipedia.
As I was reading this book, I was constantly trying to update Wikipedia because there were entries that were wrong. And every time I did it, it'd be like, oh, you can't. You're just a noob. You can't edit stuff.
So how do you get to be not a noob?
I have no idea. I didn't dig into that.
I bet you have to make comments and stuff. Like you have to participate. And then they finally let you be a person.
They're losing out.
They should just know who you are.
I could email them that Evernote thing and they'd be like, oh, we should update our Wikipedia.
Didn't you just tell them who you were? Do you know who I am?
I didn't talk to a person. I just use their interface.
Okay. So the interface didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what happens in this story by Chuck Wendig? Give us the breakdown. I think Jennifer didn't read this book. She didn't bother. She doesn't have any patience for it.
Yeah.
So
I didn't have time. I was reading another book when you guys read this, and you didn't want to wait for me to read it. So
I think we should summarize. This is a second book in a trilogy.
Right.
So we should summarize what happened in Aftermath. That is nothing.
That was the one that was super confusing.
Yes,
and
it was very choppy and had a lot of interludes that didn't
really
pertain
glad
to the
I
story.
didn't read that one.
Yes.
So really all it set up is that Ray Sloan and this mysterious Grand Admiral have a fleet, including a Super Star Destroyer called Ravager. And they kind of did a power play to get rid of some Imperial leadership. Some other Imperial... They're trying to bring together the factions of the Empire.
Right.
And on the Rebellion side, they're trying to decide how to form a government. And Mon Mothma wants to get rid of the military. And then we met a bunch of new characters that form this little rogue band that goes and they end up going out and catching Imperials.
Yeah, the Star Wars version of the Suicide Squad.
Sorta, but
what else did you just say that about?
They were good.
About Rogue One.
Yeah. Why do you keep bringing that up?
Because
for as much as he dislikes it, he likes to reference it a lot.
I got called out.
So Nora Wexley, for some reason I can never remember Snap's first name.
Jazz.
No, Snaps. The younger Wexley.
Yeah.
Taman.
Taman, yeah.
Mr. Bones, Jazzy Mari, John Burrell, and Sinjir Rathvilas are the gang.
Snaps is the one from Heroes, right?
Yes. Greg Grunberg is the actor that plays Snaps Wexley. Okay. So Life Debt picks up, 3 months. I'm going to guess 3 months after...
I think they actually say it. It's something like that, yeah.
After Aftermath. It is told in the same style. So Wendig has a weird style where everything's third person. Everything's first person. And it shifts. The story shifts from one perspective to the next. Not dissimilar to Game of Thrones. But then it also just throws in these wacky interludes that don't necessarily have anything to do with the main story.
I thought that's why you guys hated the first one.
But this
I'm
one
explaining the narrative style.
Yeah.
For those who haven't read it. In the first book, it was extremely disruptive because 60% of the book was new characters that you didn't know.
And you didn't know that you didn't need to know about them.
Right. And then you threw in these interludes that really had nothing to do with the main plot. So it just ended up breaking up the main plot of new characters that you didn't know, and it was very disruptive. And the same style goes on here, but I think it's used more sparingly and
to better effect.
Well, I would say it only can be more effective because the first book exists. Because a lot of the interludes directly connect to either the first book or interludes in the first book.
Well, I think the fact that we actually have characters in this book that we know about.
Right, that helps a lot.
Actually helps. Because we know about the characters from the first book, and they actually talk about Han and Leia and Chewie, and Wedge is there again.
Right.
So we have that to tie us down, so it's not as jarring. Even some of the flashbacks, we deal with characters that we know about.
Right. So the interludes are still there. They seem to be more tied into the main story. And they're just there to kind of world build and explain what's going on in different regions of the galaxy.
I feel like this book, it seemed like the interludes meant more. Like they actually are going somewhere in the third book, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them will. And they're all interconnecting better. The story is interconnecting better as a whole. So there's the interludes, which we'll talk about some of the interludes. And then there's the main story. And the main story, there's really kind of three... Yeah, I guess there's really two main arcs. I kind of split it up into three in my synopsis. There's the Imperial arc, and then there's the good guy Rebellion arc, but really kind of focused around the Wexley team. And then there's kind of like a side plot with Han and Chewie. And so the whole Life Debt story is about Han and Chewie in the previous book. They receive a transmission and some information that says, there's something going on Kashyyyk, and they decide they want to go liberate it. And so Han calls up a bunch of mercenaries and scoundrels, and they decide they're going to go take over, liberate Kashyyyk. And
do it on their own.
Right. Yeah. Not with the rebellion's help.
Because the rebellion
won't do
it. So Han resigns his commission.
Right.
And goes off to do it. Yeah, goes off to do it on his own.
Right. And so when this book starts, Han has gone missing, or Chewbacca's missing. Leia gets a transmission from Han, and it cuts out at the end.
And then Han's missing.
And now Han's missing. So that's what sets the plot in motion. Leia goes and asks the Wexley team, hey, can you go do this? Can you go find out what's going on with Han? Because you're good at your job. Then on the Imperial side, we get introduced to who is really this, the Grand General. His name is Gallius Rax. Tim already spoiled his name.
It's
a big reveal. How do you spell his last name?
R-A-X.
Yeah.
Does he look like an
restaurant,
alligator?
The delicious restaurant.
We don't know. He might look
Uncle
like an
Al,
alligator.
You
the
said
alligator.
He's green, right?
No, he's not green.
If there are anybody in Nerd Squadron who remembers Uncle Al and Rax, tweet us in your favorite thing to get at Rax.
Yeah.
What is there to get?
Oh,
besides a roast beef sandwich and a plastic alligator cup.
Those buns are out of control. They're so good.
Or a baked potato bar.
Oh, we need to go back to Joliet.
The Joliet Rax is closed, I thought.
No, Joliet Rax is still there. It's the only one left in Illinois.
We haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it closed.
I thought it closed.
It's been like a year.
So Gallius Rax is kind of working in the background. We find out some of his past, where Sloane does not know who this Rax guy is. She just knows that he was connected to the Emperor, and he was on his, I can't remember the name of the council, but he was on the council of trusted advisors of the Emperor at the fall of the Empire. And he is acting like he's going to start a new empire, and Sloane is going to be the head of it. She is going to be the new emperor. He just wants to be the guy in the background, kind of manipulating.
Pulling the strings.
Sort of pulling the strings, but sort of not. He plays it up like she'll make the decisions. He just wants to be like the right-hand man. But Rey doesn't trust him. So her major thrust of the book is her trying to figure out who this Rax guy is.
Yeah, so she goes on like a submission herself, even though...
Sounds like what she did in Kanan.
Kinda. But he is undermining her.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. But he does it in a way that he's undermining her, but he's making it look like...
She's doing it herself.
She's doing it. She's making... like... He's manipulating it so that in front of the other Imperial like leaders, she looks like a stud. So he keeps boosting her up, which makes her not say anything. But at the same time, it's almost like he's been able to control her that way.
Right. All right. I'm back. I have my Evernote.
That was really fast.
All right. I'm going to focus on one story at a time. They interweave like
a lot.
Yeah. So it's going to seem
And there's
disruptive.
3 stories?
There's really 2 major stories. There's Rey's story, and then there's the story of Nora's team going to find Han.
I thought that
it breaks up. It's really Nora's
and
team, and then they kind of ratchet on the liberation of Kashyyyk on top of it.
Right.
But then it's also about the struggling rebellion trying to keep itself together at the same time.
There's all kinds of stuff going on.
There's a ton of stuff.
This person named Nora, is she brand new?
No, Nora Wexley is the mother of Taman Wexley. She was the main character of Aftermath.
Oh, okay.
She's the one who formed this
So she's
team.
Snap's mom?
Yes. She was a Y-Wing pilot at the Battle of Endor, if I recall. No, A-Wing pilot at the Battle of Endor. And then her husband was Brendan Wexley.
Why don't they have, what's their names in this? The ones in the comic. The parents.
Poe's parents?
Yeah, the Damerons.
Because they retired to Yavin.
Yeah.
With the trees.
And
no, they were still in it for a while after Endor. That's when it started. That's when the...
Yeah.
Very briefly after Underworld.
Yeah, like this is a little bit after that.
Okay.
The Wexleys were the second choice.
It would have been cool if
first.
they pulled them into something else.
Well, Poe's father or mother died. I can't remember.
When?
I'm spoiling the comic.
Blew it.
Oh, what comic?
Or no, it was from the story, Before the Awakening. We find out one of his parents dies really early.
Oh.
I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is, I called it Team Wexley.
Clever.
That's
a hashtag if I ever heard one.
Yeah. So here's my attempt to explain this plot. I'm going to skip over things I don't think are important.
We're going to be here all night.
The first thing, there's this mission where they set up what the team's doing. They go capture this Imperial called Perwin Getty. Great. On the way, they capture him. On the way back to Chandrilla, we learn about this budding relationship of Jom and Jazz. They act like they're fighting, and soon it devolves into a different kind of physical exercise.
I just want to comment, since that's how we're going to do this one. Two things. One, the author did a terrible job of reintroducing you to the characters and getting their personalities and what they're good at in this first scene, because I couldn't remember exactly what the difference between all of them were. They all sort of blended together, and since they all have essentially the same voice,
because you listen to the book.
But even if you're reading it, I'm not talking about like the voice.
If you're reading,
of the
it
person
would say
it.
Jom says
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they say things the same way.
I think they're pretty distinct.
No.
Jom is very militaristic and brutish. Jazz is very kind of snaky and slithery.
But that is not established in his first bit. No, it's not.
All right. That's your critique.
Also,
noted.
This has more love making in it than any other Star Wars anything that I've ever read.
There's two of them.
Uncomfortable. And it's done in really uncomfortable ways.
It happens twice. And that's two.
It's super awkward, though.
The first time I don't think is that awkward.
What do you mean? Awkward?
I don't need this.
Like
in my
they're
Star
in
Wars.
public spaces or something?
No. It's just, it feels like it's over the top. It feels like someone who...
What about in Lost Stars?
Who's never experienced anything like this is trying to write about it.
They did it more than twice in Lost Stars.
Yeah. What?
But you were all into that.
Oh my gosh. I was.
Why?
Oh, it's totally different.
Because it was done more tastefully than this.
Oh my gosh.
This is raunchy.
It is.
This is a bounty hunter and a mercenary, a gruff mercenary. And you're upset that it's a tiny little bit vulgar. I'd say that's more character driven than out of character.
It feels really strange. It feels forced.
Okay. It could be forced. That's different than being vulgar and as a negative trait. I agree it comes out of left field.
It does.
And
I don't need it.
That's fine.
There's a lot more tasteful ways to handle it, like they did in Lost Stars.
But I think it is necessary for some of the character development.
There are other ways to approach how they did it than how they did. I think it will have the same impact.
All right. So that happens. When they get back to Chandrilla, Getty he dies, and we find out he was poisoned. He's kind of a funny character because he's like a drug, like he's addicted to drugs and he's super crazy and like
he's on spice or whatever.
Yeah, he's super weird. And then the team kind of splits up. They're on downtime, R&R. And we hear some of the backstory of Jazz. She has a mountain. The reason she's a bounty hunter is because she inherited a whole bunch of debt from her aunt. And so you think she's just this heartless bounty hunter, but in reality, she
has a heart of gold.
She does. She loves that scruff Jom, and she also wants to pay off of her
she loves
debt.
Team Wexley.
Yeah,
she's on board.
She totally
struggles with that
Nora.
through the whole book.
Yeah, she likes having somebody who's in command and makes not necessarily good decisions, but like good decisions. Like somebody who is inherently good. Follow. She wants to be good.
That's why Jennifer got with me.
Yeah.
Why did I get with you? Because you make, like, what do you mean good evil?
Like, I could say you make good decisions. That could mean all kinds of different connotations. It could be you made a profitable decision. You made a decision where your house didn't burn down. Or I could say you make decisions which are good in nature. So, like, you helped that squirrel across the road, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You gave that squirrel a step to chew on.
You got rabid raids for helping that squirrel. So it wasn't a good decision, but it was a good decision.
I get it.
All right. Taman has been training with Wedge, and he really wants to be a pilot. So we learn how he got some of his sweet piloting skills that we see in The Force Awakens.
And his nickname.
And Wedge gives him his nickname. And we find out Wedge is making this squadron called Phantom Squadron, which is a nice subtle hint of Rogue Squadron in the other expanded universe, the fake one. And we find out that Sinjir spends most of his time drinking and gallivanting around with his on-again, off-again lover. But he is really good friends with Jazz, and he has a really deep bond with Jazz. So there was a whole bunch that happened, but those are the main points. The next mission that they get is given to them by Leia in secret, and she asks them to discover the whereabouts of Han and Chewie. And they end up splitting into 3 groups. Jazz and Jom go investigate Jazz's Underworld connections on Nar Shaddaa. Sinjir and Taman interrogate some of the Imperials that they had captured on Akiva, which happened in the first book, Aftermath, to see if they know anything about what might be going on. And Nora and Wedge go to the region of space where the Millennium Falcon was last known to be. So at this point, we fracture into 3 separate stories, and it gets really disruptive in this part of the book where it jumps in between the 3 storylines. And it's kind of, one of the storylines is really dumb, but...
Which one?
You'll find out. Nora and Wedge.
Just tell me.
They find some scrap, but no indication that the Falcon was destroyed. They get some of the scrap, but there's a surprise inside it. A probe droid. They subdue the droid, but it has a backup. Like, it sends out a message, and a Star Destroyer called the Scythe shows up. And just when you think Nora and Wedge are toast, 2 New Republic capital ships called the Sunspire and the Concord arrive. And these ships are kind of important. The Sunspire is... I have to scroll down quite far to remember...
To your vehicle notes, your ships. The Sunspire was escort frigate in the Alderaanian flotilla.
Which...
ends up saving Wedge and Nora.
No, but what's the significance of the Alderaanian flotilla? You don't know?
They're rebuilding Alderaan?
Yeah, we read an entire comic series about the formation of the Alderaanian flotilla.
Oh, yeah. The Leia.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So the Leia...
it's finally coming back around.
Yeah,
that
it
wasn't
is.
a complete waste of our life. Would it be quicker if you just read the book to us?
No, this is not. This is super.
Yeah, the more he describes it, the more I'm realizing how complicated this book really was. A lot happens. It's not like a linear, straight, cut and dry Luke Skywalker action legacy book. This is not.
There's a lot of moving pieces.
Tons of them. It's really complicated, actually.
And the Concord is a new type of ship. It's one of 2. It's a new class of ship that is the first ship that they've commissioned since the New Republic formed.
A Nadiri Mark I Starhawk.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be super baller.
Yeah, they did talk about it like they were amazing.
All right. Jazz and Jom, they're digging for leads on Nar Shaddaa, and Jom is really upset that he likes Jazz, because Jazz is totally against everything he stands for. She's all for breaking the law.
Jazz is a girl?
Jazzy Mari's the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are those the 2 that make love inappropriately?
Yes. Yeah. But he's resigned to his fate, that he likes everything. You know, he just has to be with her. And they're taken unawares by some Black Sun thugs led by this person called Underboss Rinskar. And these are the people who Jazz owes money to. And she ends up striking a deal with Rinskar, who ends up providing useful information. And that information is that the system Iridiru might be interested. They might be interested in Iridiru. And she ends up trading for that information basically her entire crew. She says, if, I don't pay you back by this date, you can have all these ships and all my people, and we'll all be your slaves. Kind of a weird deal. Like, I don't know why the other person took it. But then Sinjir and Taman, they are interrogating these Imperials that they had captured previously. Julia Shale was one of them. She was the most moderate and level-headed of the Imperial people. She has been totally compliant in her capturedness. I can't think of the word right now. Her imprisonment.
Captivity.
Captivity, there you go. But ultimately, she has nothing of value. Then they go to investigate Yup Tashu, which is that dark side loving weirdo. And Taman is super freaked out. And so he nopes out and just says, Sinjir, can you handle this on your own? Yep. Tashu, while he's being interrogated by Sinjir, kind of moves in and out of sanity. It's super weird. And it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. But then Jazz calms in, hey, why don't you ask Yup Tashu about Iridiru? Because this Rinskar lady just told me it's important.
Do they have like a walkie-talkie?
Well, they have communicators.
But that's somebody that's in a different place, right?
She's in Nar Shaddaa. Well, she's actually on the Moth, probably doing things with John.
What's the Moth?
That's her ship,
vessel?
her spaceship, which she inherited from her aunt.
That's good to know.
She's attached to it.
Oh, she got it from her aunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
And so then Yup Tashu says, oh, there's a prison maker on Iridiru. So they're like, oh, a prison
maker? What's a prison maker?
I don't know. Then they all come back to Chandrila.
It's a guy that makes prisons, designs prisons. This is all really convoluted.
I know. That's why I'm skipping past it. I just summarized 5 chapters in 2 paragraphs.
Felt like that was 100 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm going through this quickly. All right. Back on Chandrila, Nora gives Leia the download, and she's like, we got to go do something about this, like right now. And Akbar and Wedge and Mon Mothma are like, nope, we're not going to do it. We can't, there's 1,000 systems that need liberated. We're not
gonna do it.
We're not going to prioritize.
Not going to do it.
You can't go do this. And then everyone just decides, you know what? We're just going to give up our commission. Well, Nora's the only one with a commission. But everyone else, Nora gives up her commission and everyone else quits and says, we're going with Nora.
Yeah,
we're going to go find Han.
Peacing out.
But Jom is like, I can't do this. I'm betrayed. I am a military guy and I'm all about command. And so, sorry, I can't go with you. He's super betrayed. Yeah, Jazz is with Nora all the way. Even though she thinks it's a stupid decision, she's with Nora all the way.
She's with the team.
Right.
Team Wexley.
All right. So they end up finding out the prison maker's name is Golas Aram, and he's got like this super sweet plantation style mansion out in the middle of Iridiru. And being a prison maker, he's got it all booby trapped up, and they're scouting it, trying to figure out how they can get into him. And while they're doing this, they're finally like, no, this is still while they're in setup. Sinjir does something, and like all these like bull cow creatures come charging at him. And just when you think Sinjir's about to get trampled and Nora's going to get killed and everyone's, totally hosed, this rogue hero, shoots his blaster into the air and scares off all the cows, the killer cows, and it's Han Solo.
This is when the book turns. It actually starts to get much better.
It's very focused at this point. once Han joins the group, it gets very linear and focused.
So what was Han doing out in the middle of the farm?
He's trying to get to Golas Aram too.
Because he knows what's up.
And he knows that Chewbacca had been taken to a prison on Kashyyyk that was made by Golas Aram.
Right. So that if they get to this guy, he can tell them essentially how to break into this prison. And where it is.
I skipped over the whole thing where Leia is currently pregnant.
Yes.
And Nora kind of figures it out.
She can just tell by her glow.
Yeah.
As all women can.
That is such crap.
And that is one
There is no such thing as a pregnancy glow.
That's one of the reasons why Nora decides that she needs to go do this, because the baby needs a father. She doesn't like how Taman and her relationship is terrible because he doesn't have a father, and Taman blames her for everything. And
Jazz could tell too because she's so trained and steeped in body language.
Yeah. Jazz was like nonchalant. Of course she's pregnant.
So does Han know?
Yes, Han knows.
Okay.
Han knows because in one of the big reveals in this book,
we're gonna get to it.
Oh, jeez.
I'll let you reveal it when we get there.
No, it's fine. You go ahead.
All right. He offers the Falcon. Oh, I skipped over a whole bunch. So they get Golas Aram. They have this cool plan where they shoot stuff and one guy sneaks in and things happen.
And it doesn't matter.
Nora saves the day, captures Golas Aram. He explains where this prison's at on Kashyyyk. They fly to Kashyyyk. They meet up with some of the other bounty hunters and ne'er-do-wells that Han had originally hired. Oh, no, this is later. This is just Team Wexley. They get to the prison. They go into it and they realize that there's no one there other than prisoners. The prison is entirely run by machines, and they're deadly machines, and they start to capture Sinjir and Nora, and it's totally the Matrix.
Yep.
The machines squirt them with chemicals and
put them into dream state, and
the
then
ship is powered by the people.
Yep.
So it's totally the Matrix.
And who's in there? Who's one of the prisoners?
Well, I gotta say, the day is saved by Mr. Bones and Taman coming in.
You didn't say who Mr. Bones was.
We know who Mr. Bones is.
I know, but you didn't say it on this episode. You introduced everybody else. No, you didn't.
I did.
You didn't say Mr. Bones.
You can come back.
Time.
How much you want to bet?
Well, I don't remember. So who's Mr.
How
Bones?
much do you want to bet?
I'm not betting an amount of money. Mr. Bones.
How about this? If I'm correct, the next time we record, there will be an ice cold Virgil's root beer waiting for me.
Okay.
If I am incorrect, I will bring ice cream.
What about RC Cola?
I don't want RC Cola.
But I do want ice cream and Virgil's root beer.
All right. So anyways,
Who is Mr. Bones? I don't remember.
That is Taman's droid it's an old B1 battle droid that he's modified. All right.
Was he in the C-3PO comic?
No, he was just in the Aftermath book.
Oh.
Yeah, I like Mr. Bones. I would take him around more.
Yeah, he's super useful. So they end up liberating the prison, and everyone starts getting out. It's all the people that Han had hired, and then some other older rebels. And what we find out, Brendan Wexley is there, Taman's father.
How did they get the machines? How'd they fight the machines?
They end up cutting the power cords, so it shuts down the defenses. It doesn't matter.
They killed the power converter or whatever, so they were no longer powered.
It just happens.
So it wasn't like a big, huge...
Oh, they made it. It was a big, huge.
It's an action set piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
All right.
Read the book.
All right, they get out.
Jeez.
No thanks. Then what happens?
All right. So it seems like Chewbacca's not there. There's a beat, and then Chewbacca comes out and he roars, and Han and Chewbacca hug, and so then Han offers up and's like, "Hey, you can take the Falcon, take all the prisoners back to Chandrila, but Chewie and I and some other people, we're staying here. We're going to liberate Kashyyyk."
Is this the second time?
No, this is the first time still.
Yeah.
He skipped ahead and then he unskipped.
Right.
No, I meant the second lovemaking.
Oh,
joking.
That
Han and Chewie.
Oh,
I
you're
was
gross.
joking.
So Taman and Nora decide they have to go back because they have Brendan. So they take the Falcon and a bunch of the older prisoners that have been there for a long time. They go back to Chandrila.
Mm-hmm. And then they're famous. They're like the lost.
Right. They're a bunch of old rebel heroes, right?
From the TV show Lost.
So here the story forks
Celebrities.
the story forks into the Chandrila storyline and the Kashyyyk storyline. So I'm going to focus first on the Kashyyyk storyline for ease of storytelling. So Jam and Jazz and Sinjir decide they're going to stay and help Han and Chewie.
You forgot to mention how Jam shows up and saves their lives.
I forgot to say, Jam shows up, even though
I was gonna say he
was duty bound.
Right, he
turned his back
Jazz
because he loves Jazz so much.
So he did what Ciena would never do.
He did.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But the lovemaking is very forced.
They don't.
All right. Anyways, so yeah, Jam came and helped save the day. Then we got all of our heroes on Kashyyyk. It kind of it switches perspective to the bad guy who's in charge of Kashyyyk. I can't remember his name. I'm sure I could find it if I looked, but he's like this really creepy people hunter kind of guy. Like he's all into hunting creatures. So he treats the Wookiees as like prey, and he really wants to just go kill Wookiees.
Oh.
Like really.
Why?
Yeah.
I was going to ask, why was Chewie ever captured? Is it just because Chewie was a rebel?
Chewie was captured as part of Han and him developing this plan to go liberate Kashyyyk. And he was taken to this prison. It's never fully explained.
Okay.
This is just a very high level prison. Spoiler alert, we end up finding out that it's like Gallius Rax's like personal little project.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah. This is part of the manipulation that he's doing constantly. He's very 4 steps ahead of the game. He's playing 4D chess for all my R. the Donald readers. Now you made me lose my train of thought. They're on Kashyyyk. It switched his perspective to the bad guy. He's this creepy dude who likes to kill people. And there's this visitor, and he's super mad because the rest of the Empire has like abandoned him on Kashyyyk. He has like 2 Star Destroyers, and he has Kashyyyk, and all these slaves, but nobody needs the slaves anymore.
Right. So he
what am I going to do with all these slaves?
Exactly. And so they talk about the slave economy a lot, but the dude's super weird, and Imperial from one of the other camps, one of the slave camps, shows up. And you don't know who he is, and he's got a guy in a cage with no eye, and it's super weird. You end up finding out Sinjir is the Imperial guy. He's got a weird spike in his boot to kill there's control necklaces around the Wookiees that explode if they
just needed to get close to hack the computer.
Right. He hacks the computer with a wireless spike.
But he lost his eyeball in the process.
No, Jam lost his eyeball.
Oh.
Jam had gotten captured in one of the previous raids of the good guys.
Yeah.
And this weird, crazy hunter guy took his eyeball.
Mm-hmm.
And they
loses his eye in this book.
Yes. That's the thing. It just skips forward. That's what it's kind of disruptive. You end the Kashyyyk storyline, and then you go back to Kashyyyk, and it's this guy, and then he's got a guy in a cage with one eye, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it's gone forward a couple months or something.
Right.
Like they've been there disrupting.
Right.
Yeah.
Liberating camps here and there, but the only way they can liberate Kashyyyk is to get this main controller. So
Why didn't they send the robot to go do it?
Well, Mr. Bones went back with Taman.
Well, get him back.
Wow.
How
back on
hard could
Chandrila.
it be to send him back?
So, just when they think, we save the day, because Sinjir ends up helping Jam get out of the cage, and they're going to go kill the main bad guy, and he's crazy on spice, and he decides, if I can't have Kashyyyk, no one can have Kashyyyk. So he gives the order for the 2 Star Destroyers to just orbitally bombard Kashyyyk. And they're going to destroy Kashyyyk. And out of nowhere...
Are most of the slaves Wookiees?
Yeah, all the slaves are Wookiees.
Oh.
Out of nowhere...
I don't understand.
Phantom Squadron shows up, and Wedge blows up. They blow up one of the Star Destroyers, and they capture the other one. Because there's another one of these Concorde class ships. A bunch of... Basically, Wedge and Akbar, at the last minute, they decide, we're not going to be D-bags anymore. We're going to help Han.
Right.
And so they timely come save the day. And
this after Wedge had blown their cover before.
Right.
So Wedge sort of redeemed himself as a true rebel again.
Right.
I don't understand how the Wookiees are always slaves somewhere.
Well, they've been slaves the whole time.
So cute. No, not just in this book. I mean, always. They're always slaves.
Because they've been enslaved for the entirety of the story that you've read.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, the Empire.
There's like different places where they're slaves.
No,
always.
they are taken to other places to do work.
Right.
But they're all from Kashyyyk.
Oh.
Yeah, the Empire.
So like in Rebels, when they go and they save them,
Yes.
they're saving them from Kashyyyk?
No, those are Wookiees that were being transported from Kashyyyk to somewhere else to work. Like a mine or
I thought they were just like everywhere you go, somebody's got them enslaved.
They do, because they're the best slaves.
Yeah, because they're super strong.
Yeah, that's why I don't get how they ever get caught.
What do you mean how they ever get caught?
They're so big and huge, and like they're so strong.
Because they have these necklaces that if they are unruly, it explodes and their head blows up.
But not just that, they don't explode them; they explode their family. And since they have the familial bond of an orca whale, Jennifer,
or a gorilla,
Oh
my god!
I'm speaking to her soul right now. Since that, they don't uprise because they don't want to offend, or they don't want to get their family hurt, essentially. Right. And because it's so important.
Terrorists have them enslaved. Can we move past that? Have you come full circle on Wookiees being slaves?
Yeah, I guess, sure.
Okay. So that's really the end of the Kashyyyk arc. Kashyyyk is liberated. But the big thing...
What happens to the one dude that was going to have the planet destroyed?
He ends up killing himself.
He just kills himself?
He overdoses on spice.
Yeah.
So the big end is Han getting all sappy because he tells Chewbacca to stay back with his family. And he needs to go start his family.
Right. So they break up.
They break
the life
up.
debt has been ended.
Right.
Han never wanted the life debt in the first place.
Right.
He thought it was stupid.
Which we'll find out about in the movie, I'm sure. But, so that's the big thing is, now we know why Chewbacca isn't with Han during The Force Awakens. During other books.
Right.
He's with him during Force Awakens.
Right, because they get back together.
Right.
But we don't know why.
But
they weren't together in Bloodline.
Right.
Specifically. 6 years before Force Awakens.
Correct. And we know that Chewbacca's on Kashyyyk.
Right.
But at this point...
A liberated Kashyyyk,
right.
no less.
So we know Han and Leia are still tight. They're bros, which we already kind of
They're
knew.
married.
They're still married in Bloodlines, too. He knows he's having a kid.
Bloodline.
I said it right. All right. So now we've resolved the Han storyline. I'm going to skip over the Chandrila storyline for now.
Which the whole book was billed as the Han storyline.
The Han and Chewie storyline.
Every bit of the synopsis, every bit of the advertising.
Han and Chewie liberate Kashyyyk.
Yes, that was it.
The reality is it was like 6 chapters of Han.
I would say it was a fifth of the story.
Yeah, give or take.
Maybe tops a quarter.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to kind of skip over the Chandrila, the remainder of the good guy storyline, because it relies on some things that are going on in the bad guy storyline. Okay. Take a deep breather. That was a solid half of the book that we just synopsized.
45 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Feels like 20.
Does it?
Yeah.
How many minutes does it?
Love to talk.
All right. I'm going to do this one faster so you can't talk as much.
Oh, so even less of us talking. That sounds good.
Rey is in charge of the Imperial Remnant. She like I said, Gallius Rax is
Rey Sloane. You should say that.
Rey Sloane, right? The character that we know from Kanan, from A New Dawn. She's everywhere.
People may think you're talking about Rey from Force Awakens.
Oh, it is definitely not Rey from The Force Awakens. Rey Palpatine? Question mark? No. It's just Rey. Rey, no name. Rey Sloane but she's really just the puppet of Gallius. And Gallius wants Rey to build up his new Shadow Council, which is going to be his group of really close-knit advisors that run the Empire, like there was under Palpatine. So the first goal is to go get this guy named Brendel Hux, who's on Arcanus. He is well known for training Imperial officers, and especially for training children from a young age. And
this is the Hux from the show's dad from
yes,
the movie.
Yes. But at the same time, Rey has her own mission where she wants to figure out who Rax really is, because he just sort of appears on like the galactic news. Like if we had a TMZ, like he doesn't exist in anywhere. He's not important. And then boom, all of a sudden he's one of the Emperor's closest aides and he's like 30. So nobody knows his past. And she really is interested in his past. She ends up going to Coruscant. And we end up finding out that Coruscant is under the control of the ISB, which is the Imperial Security Bureau. And they're kind of a separate entity from Rax and all them. And they're still led by Mas Amedda, who is the blue dude with the horns, who is like Palpatine's
advisor.
Oh, that Twi'lek?
He's not a Twi'lek. I can't remember what planet he's from, but he's not a Twi'lek.
Does he look like a Twi'lek?
Kind of, yeah.
Another thing she really wants to find out is how many Super Star Destroyers
does it take to screw in a light bulb?
1, 2.
Now we know, folks.
Yeah.
The question's answered. Josh has spoken.
She knows of the Ravager because she is technically in charge of it. It's her command ship. But there's a really interesting subplot where there's actually they built like 11 Super Star Destroyers, and she knows the history of like 4 of them. And so Rax insinuates that he has other fleets hiding out in nebulae across the galaxy. And Rey doesn't know what that means. Like, what if he has 4 other Super Star Destroyers out there? So she really wants to figure out, and she thinks that there's these records in Coruscant. That's why she goes to Coruscant. She meets Mas Amedda. They both talk about Rax. Neither of them really knows anything. But Mas Amedda at this point really has no power. He actually, in an interlude in this book, he tries to surrender to Leia and Mon Mothma. And they're like, why would we even take you? You're free to go do whatever you want. We don't want you. You're useless.
Right.
You're beneath even us accepting you as surrender.
Which was a political thing. Psychological manipulation.
So he's super like down and out. She ends up being saved by Mercurial Swift, who is a character that's popping up a lot. He's a bounty hunter. She hires Swift to go liberate the Hux boys from Arcanus. Her and Amedda eventually agree to work together. She thinks, so that's an interesting thing. She perceives him as having all this power, when in reality he thinks he has no power. And so she ends up allowing him to join her empire, basically, for information. And she doesn't really need to. Like, he's just a chump at that point. But she ends up getting a lead that the Emperor would always go out to Jakku with these mining droids. And somehow Rax is involved with these mining droids on Jakku. And she can go to, I can't remember what planet, but the droids are still with the Emperor's old ship, the Imperialis. And
which we know from the Lando comic book.
We know the Imperialis.
Mm-hmm.
So she ends up sending Mercurial Swift to go investigate the Imperialis and find out about these droids. These mining droids. The Shadow Council meets. They decide on... They're kind of fighting over whether they should attack now or attack later. But ultimately the meeting is cut short because Rey is pulled aside due to a pressing situation by Adia Wright, who is her right hand, like her
advisor.
She's not an advisor. It's more of an assistant role. But she's like the only person that Rey really likes. And she thinks she's the perfect Imperial and all this stuff. We end up finding out that a really important situation is the Scythe getting destroyed, which is the ship that Wedge blew, or the 2 rebel ships, the Concorde and the other ship blow up earlier when they're saving Wedge and Nora. But she ends up finding out that Rax sent the scythe and sent 2 mysterious transmissions. And she's kind of figuring out that Rax sent the scythe and sent the transmissions to the New Republic to go kill the scythe. And she can kind of see that he's playing both sides. Because we already know that he is the informant to the rebellion. And she knew that, but she doesn't...
How do we know that?
Because he told her, didn't he?
Yeah. He's the operator from the first book.
Yeah. He's doing it to manipulate everything.
Right. That's how they set up Arcanus. Is he told the rebellion there's going to be all these Imperial leaders here.
The long story short, you find out Rax is a real devious fellow, and he has his hands stirring every pot that can be stirred.
And the reason why he sent the scythe was to kill a political rival, who's the commander of the scythe. So she's learning very quickly that she's in perilous, like, Rax doesn't mess around with political enemies.
Yeah, she has no power. This guy is controlling everything. And there's some secret thing that he's doing, a big thing.
Right. And she also found out that he sent these commands as her. So he's setting her up for the fall.
But then ends up giving her the credit because he makes it look like she did good.
Right. But yeah, we've already elaborated. She feels she's losing her grip. All right. Whew.
I summed up what you said in like a sentence. Let's
sort of. All right. There's this weird scene where Rax and Adia have this creepy relationship. At this point, Rax is probably in his 50s, 60s maybe. He's an older chap. And Adia is a young, bright Imperial officer. But apparently they're lovers. And like she kind of treats him as a father at the same time. And like we end up finding out Rax is manipulating Adia to control Rey.
And to spy on Rey.
Right.
Yeah.
And Adia is fully on Team Rax. Like, even though she acts like Rey's trusted confidant.
Man, I'm Team Rax too. I love Rax. Their buns are so good.
All right. So then the next big thing that happens is the operator says Rey Sloane, he tells the rebellion Rey Sloane wants to sit down and talk peace terms. And so they end up setting up this big deal where Rey is going to come to Chandrila and they're going to have peace talks. All right.
Does the rebellion know who this operator is?
They don't know. They just know that he is consistently given them
good
correct intel.
Yeah. So they trust the operator.
Mm.
And they end up talking to Rey directly, and Rey's like, yeah, we'll have a peace deal.
Can we tell the rebellion part really short?
Well, that's the end of the book. Like, that's all we have left is the rebellion, the remainder on Chandrila.
Well, we have to talk about all the interludes, too.
The interludes will be quick. This will be quick. There's not a whole lot to say, right?
You said the Imperial thing would be quick.
We just did half the book in like 10 minutes.
Just go. Just talk.
Just stop. All right. So the other Rey Sloane's coming for peace talks. The other event is all these prisoners that came back from Kashyyyk. They're having, I can't remember what it is, Liberator Day? I can't remember what it's called. They're having a day where they're celebrating the liberation of all these prisoners. And they end up deciding, we'll do them both on the same day. It'll be great. We'll have a parade and then we'll drink juice and talk about peace. All right. So Brendan, Wexley, Taman, and Nora in the intervening months are living together and reestablishing these relationships.
Right. They're one big happy family.
Except
finally
they're not.
Reunited after 10 years or whatever.
Right. Except they're not one big happy family. Brendan is super weird. He'll go into these weird fits where he's not the same.
And he goes for
long walks all the time. He always just says, oh, I'm going to go for a walk by myself. And Taman thinks it's because Nora
is rejecting him.
Right. Because Nora, in the interim, has a thing for Wedge.
Mom.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does.
Right.
It's just like a petulant child, too. It couldn't be more that way.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But Nora...
And how old is Taman?
15-ish.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nora is trying to be the dutiful wife and like be back, but he's treating her coldly all the time too, so it's a big problem. Nobody's happy. Wedge is super sad because he finally thought he would have a girlfriend.
He was going to bring her flowers, and then
Brendan gets off the Falcon with her.
Wedge likes Nora.
Yeah.
Oh, they have
a budding relationship in the beginning of the book.
They kissed.
Yeah.
Wow.
On a ship.
Yeah. All right. So they're a super big happy family, except they're not. And it all comes to a head when Taman decides, I've had enough of this. I'm going to follow my dad on one of these walks.
Uh-oh.
So he and Mr. Bones follow him.
What do you think happens, Jen?
He's having a secret phone call with the mistress that he met in prison.
He is having a secret meeting with a prison guard.
Male.
That's a woman.
That's a male.
Male prison guard.
That he's attracted to.
He's not attracted.
All right. I made all that up.
And the prison guard says, you going to take care of this, Wexley, or do I need to? And
because he sees Taman.
Right. And so, because he walks up, he's like, hey, Dad, what's up? Are you going fishing with this guy? What's going on?
Yeah.
Because they're at a fish processing facility.
They're out on a dock. Yeah.
And Brendan ends up shooting him. Shoots his son.
Yeah. But you don't know.
You don't know anything.
Stun bolt.
It's a stun bolt. He sticks him in a refrigerator.
What does Mr. Bones do?
Well, Mr. Bones eventually finds him and saves him.
Yeah.
But this is all far too late.
What does he do when he shoots him?
Mr. Bones was like back at the house. He went by himself.
told Mr. Bones to stay behind.
That's right, because he wanted to go for a walk by himself.
Because
he was getting mad at his robot because he had reprogrammed his robot, and his robot was more cheery and like outgoing. And
Taman wanted to be emo.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
It's very weird.
He sounds like a brat.
He is a brat.
And this was all the night before the big day, Liberation Day.
Yeah.
And the thing is like the Wexleys were going to be put on the main stage and like, here, look at this family. They were born of the rebellion and they kept fighting and now they're back together and everybody's happy. And so they start to have this parade and there's all these things going on. And Nora's like, she has Brendan and she's like, where's Taman? Why isn't Taman here? He's supposed to be here. And she's super mad at Taman. And Ray Sloan is up sitting in a press box looking down and she laments that all these like alien races and their cultures and things are all so stupid. And while the parade's going on.
Is she racist or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, all Imperials are racist.
She doesn't like the different species?
No.
Might be involved with Snoke in some way, but
What are you doing?
What?
I was clicking.
What? All right.
It sounds like you're like cheating on
Yeah,
us.
it sounds like you're cheating. All right. So right when the parade's over, Mon Mothma's gonna, give a big speech and rouse the Empire, the galaxy to join the New Republic, and all heck breaks loose. All the prisoners have blasters, and they start shooting. So Brendan ends up shooting Mon Mothma in the shoulder because Nora hits his arm at the last second.
Yeah. Saved your
so
life.
all the prisoners were like what, brainwashed?
Yes. They were all brainwashed by Gallius Rax.
So it was just like Order 66.
Sorta. So he was playing the long
con.
con.
The Manchurian Candidate.
He set all this up to get Han to go liberate Chewbacca from the prison so that they could get the prisoners out to set up this thing to kill Mon Mothma. Super weird.
Why didn't he just go kill Mon Mothma? He could have had
because he's a terrorist.
One person go.
He's all
do
about
it.
the mental part of it. Like, if our fallen heroes are murdering our leaders,
die, right? It just hit her arm.
Right, she ends up not dying, but there are a number of high-ranking rebel characters that were introduced in the new universe only that are dead. All your old favorite friends made it out alive. Other than, I can't remember if Madine dies or not. I thought there was one or two like classic characters.
So what did Ray Sloan do during this?
Adia, basically, it's just Adia and Ray up in their little press box. And Adia, I can't remember the conversation they have, but Adia basically says, this is a test. You're either with Rax or you're not. And Sloan is super angry. Mm-hmm. She thinks this is wrong. They should be, Because the original plan that gets Sloane to go along with it is Rax convinces her that while she's there, he will take the entire Imperial fleet and attack Chandrilla. And they'll just destroy the New Republic before it gets off its feet. And so that's why she even does this plan. Like, she thinks she's going to be on Chandrilla, they're going to attack. And so she's like, the whole time they're watching the parade, she's like, these people don't even know what's about to happen. Like, their whole world's going to get disrupted. And then that happens. And she's super angry because she thinks it's wrong. Like, they should fight the noble, honorable way. And so Adia says, hey, you're with Rax or you're not. And Sloane says, nope, I'm not with Rax. And so Adia tries to kill Sloane. And Sloane ends up killing her. And now she's like, I'm the leader of the Empire. And a bunch of my prisoners just murdered a bunch of people. I better get out of here. So she tries to get out. Brendan ends up running off into the crowd. And Taman chases after him. Because Taman...
How did he get out of the fridge? Mr. Bones?
Mr. Bones shows up, and of course they get there at the wrong, Taman's running through the crowd. He could save the day, but of course he's too late. There's too many people not letting him through, and God forbid he sends the robot that can jump 60 feet in the air to just jump up to the stage, but...
They're really underutilizing Mr. Bones.
They are. He's very overpowered when they do utilize him.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, Taman chases his dad. Nora chases Sloane. They all fight and do things. And we think ultimately Sloane gets shot by Nora. And the last thing we see is she's like falling off the side of a walkway or something, shot. So we think Sloane's done for. And Taman loses track of his dad. We come to find out that Brendan actually finds Sloane, and they get on a ship together with Yup Tashu. And
what's that?
He's that crazy Imperial guy.
I thought he died.
No, so the crazy Imperial guy that was in prison, not the one on Kashyyyk.
The blue one, the assistant to...
No, that's Masamida.
Oh, oops.
Ignore, it's not important.
Okay.
The prison guard that Taman's dad met with, he ends up killing all the Imperial prisoners that were working with, being complicit, and the only guy who was fighting against the New Republic he saves. So anyways, that's a very small subplot. The way the story ends is Brendan and Sloane decide they're going to work together because Brendan wants revenge on Rax. Because the whole time he has no control over what's happening.
So he's conscious of what he's doing and that it's wrong?
But he can't stop it. So he's super, angry. He wants revenge on Rax. Sloane wants revenge on Rax.
Well, if he knew what was going on, he couldn't tell Nora what was happening?
His body would not let him...
He had to follow the command, yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to make sense.
Did Chewie get brainwashed?
No, he wasn't in there long enough.
Oh.
Chewie's okay. So Sloane and Brendan, they're a team now. And they're going to go take on the Empire. She wants her Empire back. And when all the Chandrilla nonsense is going on, there's the side plot of them attacking Chandrilla. And the book plays it up like it's going to happen. Like, Rax gets the fleet together, they all go into hyperspace, and then we end up finding they don't go to Chandrilla, they end up going to Jakku. And we don't know why they go to Jakku, but we know why they go to Jakku. Because there's an epilogue and a prologue, and in the epilogue and prologue, we find out that Gallius Rax was this little boy that lived on Jakku. He ends up stowing away on the Imperialis.
Yeah, the Emperor was there.
Putting his mining droids.
Right.
There's something on Jakku, and it's important to Palpatine. Lots of power, who knows what. And that's how Rax comes into Palpatine's service, is Palpatine says, hey, if you go defend my, look after my mining droids, and I can make you part of something big. And Rax falls for it and joins the Emperor, basically. So we know there's something super mega important on Jakku. So important that Rax now has moved the entire Imperial remnant there. And obviously in the last book, which I can't remember what it's called, that should pay off. And we should find out what's going on in Jakku.
Huh.
So that's
like Empire's End.
So what was Han and Leia doing when this battle was going on? They didn't come to the parade?
Han was still on Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
He wasn't back yet.
Mm.
And Leia wasn't there because she was so they were on Kashyyyk, is what it was.
And Leia went to go help.
The way that Leia helped is she got in the Falcon with Yvonne. You remember Yvonne from the Leia series?
Yeah.
She and Yvonne get in the Falcon and decide they're going to go take on these 2 Star Destroyers. And she sends a message back to Akbar and Wedge and says, hey, I'm going to go fight 2 Star Destroyers by myself. Okay, thanks, bye. And, of course, they show up and help her.
Yep, that was why they went.
But then they never even have to fight.
No, they ended up fighting.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Falcon didn't, I don't think.
Right, the Falcon didn't have to.
That's it.
Who do the Star Destroyers fight?
A bunch of rebel ships that Akbar and Wedge are like, we're not going to let Leia go kill herself. We're going to go help. So
we just left that part of the story.
But the Star Destroyers really weren't going to do anything.
The Star Destroyers were about to bombard Kashyyyk.
They were bombarding Kashyyyk, and they were about to blow up the Falcon until the other rebels showed up.
I'm getting the planets mixed up.
That's okay.
The Star Destroyer that was on the parade planet wasn't going to
there was no Star Destroyer at the parade planet. That's
But
Chandrila.
they pretended like they were going there?
The entire fleet convinced Sloane they were going to go attack Chandrila while this parade was going on Unity Day. And so while you're reading the book, they're doing all the prep work. They're getting the fleet together. They're entering hyperspace. They're doing all... And you're reading the book and you're like, oh no, this is going to happen. There's going to be a sweet space battle. But in the end, it's just all the prisoners shooting people, and then the Imperials show up at Jakku.
Mm.
So it's a misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
Rax is working on many levels.
So what were the Star Destroyers doing at Kashyyyk?
Those were just the remaining Imperial forces that still kind of didn't believe that the Emperor was dead. Because all throughout this book and the last book, there's a running thread where different segments of the Empire tell different stories. Like some think the Emperor dead, some keep saying that he's not dead, some talk about there might be clones of the Emperor out there. There's droids sending messages for the Emperor,
right.
Which was in the Shattered
Empire. Yeah.
So there's just all these rumors and whispers, but the guy on Kashyyyk, the crazy guy who likes to hunt things, he had 2 Star Destroyers, and for all intents and purposes, Kashyyyk was his. He was the new Emperor of Kashyyyk.
Okay.
You want to talk about the interludes?
The interludes, yeah, I would love to. So did we really talk all the way through on what Rax...
That's the entire book.
The beginning was Rax jumping onto the ship. We didn't talk about the entire book. The end was...
Him and Palpatine. Palpatine says, if you watch my droids, I will make you part of something bigger than you.
Right.
That's it.
I'll kill you if you don't, basically. Yeah. But he detected that he's Force sensitive, too.
He sensed something. He sensed a destiny in him.
Rax resisted Palpatine's... No, it very clearly says that in the book.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
So how old is Rax when this deal?
6, 8. He's small.
So
young,
Rax is from Jakku.
So we end up finding out the epilogue and the prologue are from a long, long time ago. Like before Palpatine is Palpatine.
Yeah, like around episode 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
In Jakku, so he's about the same age as Anakin?
At the time of this book, he's about 50 or 60 years old.
But so he's
a little older than Anakin, I would say.
And Jakku is the planet that they first introduced in The Force Awakens.
Where we find Rey.
Where everything...
And where there's a big battle at the end of Lost Stars.
Right. So there's something on Jakku, and the third book is probably going to be the Battle of Jakku.
We find out there's a bunch of Imperial forces at Jakku. We know there was a huge battle on Jakku. So all of the pieces are coming together on why everyone cares about Jakku.
So how come earlier you said Rey Palpatine?
Because there's that stupid fan theory that she's the daughter of Palpatine.
I've never heard that one.
We've talked about it at least 3 times.
No.
It's good that you don't remember it because it's useless.
She pushes the stupid theories out. All right, interlude on or we already talked about this one with the Massa Media or whatever. Interlude, Coronet City, Church of the Dark Side. On Corellia and Coronet City, I had flashbacks to Star Wars Galaxies. We see acolytes of the dark side, and they're running around spray painting Vader lives on everything. We get an interlude for the Annihilator.
Well, so the big thing there is they're stealing artifacts. And
a lightsaber. I know what's next door. Yeah. Right. Interlude Annihilator. Pirate's Life for Me.
I gave all these
clever titles.
So the Annihilator is one of the Super Star Destroyers.
Oh, yeah.
That Rey is trying to investigate. And we end up finding out that there's this pirate group that actually are running. They have this Super Star Destroyer. And they capture an Alderaanian ship called the Starfall. And there you go.
Right.
So it's just setting up that these pirates are out there. They're growing in power.
Oh, we have another interlude with the Ruins of Alderaan. We Can Rebuild It. Josh's clever title.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that's clever, but essentially, short.
Well, it's like We Can Rebuild Him, like the $10 million man.
Right. Yvonne, who we know from the Leia series.
She's not there.
There's so much Leia series.
Yvonne's not there.
You said Yvonne.
Yvonne is on Chandrila.
I know, but we talked about Yvonne.
He's just bringing something else up.
Well, I don't know where he's pulling this out of his butt.
Oh my gosh.
He's saying 3 words and trying to piece
all these
together.
people are trying to salvage things from destructed Alderaan, from the wreckage and the rubble.
They're trying to rebuild Alderaan. They're trying to build something like a station.
Yeah. So, but they weren't trying to do that yet.
They have aspirations, but
right. And then Leia starts sending hunks of the Death Star. Leia and Yvonne from the Leia series start sending hunks of the Death Star over there, and they decide they're going to rebuild Alderaan.
Build a space station where Alderaan was.
Right.
And that'll be where all the new...
Using chunks of the Death Star. That's crazy.
It's awesome.
What if Alderaan gets its revenge? How crazy would that be?
I don't think they would want to have revenge, though.
Maybe. I don't know. Things change when you don't have a planet.
Yeah.
We get another interlude with Maz Kanata on Takodana, and we get to hear Maz's rules of the castle. We get to see an ISB agent and a New Republic pilot, and they get in a fight, which breaks one of Maz's rules, and she puts them in her own little prison. And then she lectures them and kicks them both out and tells them never to come back.
Yeah, Maz.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about that blue guy.
No, that's Maz Amida.
Oh my god!
And then
those names are exactly the same.
And then she gets a kind of a force sense that things are not right, and she decides that she needs to go off and explore the galaxy.
So Maz is just in a short interlude.
It's actually
pretty long.
Yeah, pretty long.
It's very summarized.
What's the point of her? Like, what does she do?
She senses like a disturbance in the galaxy. Things are out of balance, so she's got to go figure out why.
This is probably setting up how she goes and finds Luke's lightsaber.
Right.
Anakin's old lightsaber.
And then we have the one I found most interesting was the interlude on Tatooine with Malachy Lee, who is just despondent since his Rancor has been killed by a freak accident.
Well, more than that, he also lost his job because Jabba got killed.
Yeah, I was getting to that.
All right.
Josh interruption.
I'm sorry.
He also lost his job and his home. Everybody sort of abandoned Jabba's palace. So he's basically given up on life. He's finished. Would you stop that?
Just talk.
He's given up on life, and then somebody shows up and offers him a job.
Well, it's the mining guild people. We hear about the mining guild on the interlude on Tatooine before. These mining guild people capture him, and they're like, hey, give us all your stuff. And then Vance, the guy who ended up buying Boba Fett's armor the previous one.
Taking Boba Fett's armor.
Well, yeah. He shows up and saves Malachy Lee and says, hey, we have a city where there's law. We're the law.
And we have a hut.
Yeah,
you want to train him?
Yeah, a baby hut.
So they're going to...
Malachy Lee is going to train a baby hut.
To be like a slave, basically.
No, I don't think.
I don't think so. Yeah. Guaranteed. It's like they're not going to set another hut up.
I think they're going to set another hut up.
Why would they need to if they have
because people
Malachy Lee
respect and fear
training a hut? Why would you have to train
He's going to
one?
be a figurehead.
Oh boy!
All I know is it's weird and interesting that the guy with Boba Fett's armor is having Malachy Lee train a baby hut.
That is very strange.
It's super weird.
I don't even remember this other one. It must have been real important.
So there was the reporter from the first book. There was an interlude with this reporter, and she was on Chandrilla and interviewing people about the New Republic.
Yeah.
Now she's on a planet, and it's like a war reporter type thing. And while she's there, the Empire attacks. Her cameraman gets killed. It's super sad face. It's all just more of the horrors of war and type stuff. A guy gets crushed by a TIE fighter wing. It's pretty sweet.
I think that's it.
That's it for the interludes.
I think that's it for the book. Do we have other stuff that we need to talk about?
I think the only interesting part that I was going to talk about is the fate of all the Super Star Destroyers.
Oh, yeah. Break that down. That is actually interesting.
All right. So the Ravager is active, and it's under Sloan/Rax's command. The Executor was lost at Endor, as we know.
Crashing into the Death Star 2. Right, Jenny?
That face is... I don't know what that face is. 3 unnamed ships that are currently at the hands of... that were lost at the hands of New Republic. 2 were surrendered, and 1 was captured during repairs at Kuat. So apparently the New Republic has 3 Super Star Destroyers at this point,
yeah.
Which seems insane. There were 5 unnamed that were destroyed in battle. There's the Annihilator, that was Tag's flagship, or Tagi, as you might remember him.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that it's his flagship in the Vader comic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that was stolen by pirates. The Arbitrator evaporated when it was sucked into a gravity well during a bad hyperspace jump. And then...
What a lame,
yeah.
lame way to go out. Oh, man.
And then the Eclipse was Palpatine's command ship. It was allegedly destroyed by the New Republic, specifically Home 1, but the black box recordings make it seem like the records were doctored. And then, just an ancillary thought on Star Destroyers, 25% of the records for Star Destroyers also have similar dubious records. So it's really setting the stage for...
there being a giant fleet somewhere else.
Right.
How do you get people to man those ships?
Don't know. Not my problem.
Maybe there's more clones.
Maybe there's more clones. So it was just super interesting. Like, that was always a big question. I remember when in the X-Wing series, like, it was a big deal that there was a Super Star Destroyer on Coruscant. And, like, it was the second...
it was in the ground.
Right.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Right. And so, you know, everyone always thought there was only one Super Star Destroyer, and it would make sense. It seems like a huge waste of resources.
Yeah, but there was actually a ton of them.
Yeah, there's like 11.
So,
Or 12.
this book is very heavy on continuity, and I would strongly recommend that everyone read it because there's a lot in it that matters. That's my opinion.
There's a lot that goes on, and it definitely fleshes out the world a lot.
It doesn't just tackle certain issues because it's such a big and broad stroke book that has so many different little plots tying and spinning. You almost have to read it to start to get your head around it.
Here are some of the important nuggets that I thought would be interesting. And we've talked about some of these a little bit, but Mas Amedda talks about crazy tales spreading throughout the Empire and mentions a couple interesting things. People think that Vader is still alive, and this is because of all the zealots.
Mm-hmm.
So the side stories that we hear about, that the Emperor is posthumously sending out orders through droids,
Which we saw.
which
We already
actually
talked
happens.
about.
There's other weird things that were just weird. Wedge gives Taman his nickname Snap. Yvonne is pronounced Yvonne.
Right. Just like we thought.
Right. Well, there was some ambiguity there.
We find out that for real, Han and Leia got married on Endor.
Yep, right after the battle. Team Wexley is getting information from the holocron thing that they took from Shurat Nuat. So it kind of ties back to the first book. The Purgil reference was made comparing the destruction of a Star Destroyer being like taking a Purgil, as in it dies super slowly. So they were describing, I can't remember who the character who was describing it, but they were actively destroying a Star Destroyer, and it was like it was limping over and falling down and just slowly dying. And I thought it was cool that they brought out purgils, which are from Rebels. You remember the space whales?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot they were called that.
Yeah. Cantata of Cora Visora is a Old Republic opera about the conflicted life of a witch who wouldn't join the Jedi nor the Sith, which, to me, pretty much parallels Ahsoka. And it's the first song that Gallius Rax ever heard, and it's still his favorite. And so throughout the book, he kind of talks about his love for opera and weird antiquity type things, and he's very like refined and super creepy. It's awesome. Then this is another weird reference that I found. Rax describes Adia as the kiss of fire, and he's kind of pitting her against, or he is called a shard of ice by Rey. So it's like the Song of Ice and Fire, which is a Game of Thrones reference.
Great.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
So she's a Gret.
Yeah. We find out that the flags outside of Maz's castle represent hundreds of cities and guilds from across the history of the galaxy.
Yeah, so we know why there's weird flags everywhere.
Yeah.
Mando flags and pod racer flags.
One of her ships is called the Stranger's Fortune. I just thought it was an interesting name for a ship. And then one of the best lines in the book is Nora calls the Millennium Falcon a space dumpster fire.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Are we done talking about this book?
Do you need to be done? I have lots of other notes.
Oh, he has... we should post these. We should post these.
I have little snippets about all the main characters and all the side characters and...
Yeah, I'm going to post them.
Whatever.
All right. That's it. Life Debt. Lightsaber rating. I'm going to go... Ugh. I wish I could do half ratings. I'm going to go 6.
7.
That's really low. I thought you liked it.
Look at my Aftermath rating.
What was that, a 4?
I don't think it was that good.
So this is way better than Aftermath.
Yeah, it's immensely better. This book is readable. This book is...
I still think it could be served by taking out the interludes.
I actually kind of liked these interludes.
The interludes themselves are better, but still in the context of the story.
I wish he would just do the short stories. Everything with Team Wexley, I don't like.
Oh, well,
I don't like any part of it.
Like the main book.
Yeah, I know. I don't like the characters. I don't buy them. It's like they're just... they're not very deep characters. They say everything they mean. Like, they say everything to try to point out that they are this type of character. Instead of showing me that you're a bad mercenary, she has to say it. It's like everything's right on the nose.
She does.
I know, but I don't need it. I don't need it. Just show me.
So that's your main criticism, is that the main story is lacking.
Yeah, it's uninteresting in almost every way.
I was interested. I liked it.
Jennifer.
I liked it enough to give it a 7.
Jennifer, would you like to rate this book?
I can't rate it. I didn't read it.
Well, how interesting was the story?
Josh's
It was
review?
much more interesting than the first one. I can't even tell you anything about the first one, except for I remember Ray Sloan was in it.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Seems a lot more interesting.
Walk, don't run.
Yeah.
To purchase this book.
Sidle over to the book counter the next time you're at Walmart.
Or you could just wait and then read the last one.
Maybe.
It seems like that's going to be the important one.
I think it's time to do
a couple letters.
Yeah, letters. We got your letters. Jenny is giving me the no symbol.
Let's do one letter.
We skipped a bunch of letters last week because of technical issues.
So do one of those letters.
Okay.
One letter. You got to give us your $8 million insight on this one, Jenny. The listeners are clamoring for more of your insight.
All right. I can't.
This is a pretty insightless episode because you refrained from reading the book.
All right, here we go. We got Icy Spidey's official Rogue One trailer. May include spoilers. What's up, Nerd Squadron? Newly member Icy Spidey here. I just watched the new trailer for Rogue One, and boy oh boy, was I happier than 3PO in an oil bath. We got to see a lot of new footage and a lot of hints into the movie. Saw Gerrera is showing off his new hairstyle, and we get a look at his suit that apparently is like Vader's in the way that it aids him in staying alive. I wonder if we will get some backstory and how he received such damaging injuries.
We won't. Not in the movie.
We get to hear some sassy lines from the new droid K2SO, where he even pulled a 3PO calculation, the odds of success. Never told me the odds. A super cool scene of a Star Destroyer hovering over a mountain-like structure on the planet Jeddah, dang it. Which Jeddah is apparently a hot spot in the galaxy for both the Jedi and the Empire during this time period because it is where you can find kyber crystals, which we all know power lightsabers and the super laser on the Death Star.
They don't power anything.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, then why didn't you say it?
Bodhi Rook,
I didn't read it.
the hotshot pilot, has an Imperial arm patch on the arm of his jacket. Wonder what that is about. The tall structure we see a few times in the trailer could be a Jedi temple. Destroying it might be Vader's main mission in the movie. We all know how much Vader likes destroying Jedi stuff.
It's not.
I wish we could have seen a little more of Vader in this trailer. I really hope that during the movie we get to see him wield his crimson blade.
We will.
I have a question for Mason. Why do Sith have yellow eyes?
When we talked about this first time, I'm going to give you the same answer, but I can't remember all of it.
Because they're like
I did a bunch of
werewolves.
research, and the consensus theory on the internet is that it's when they're tapping into the dark side, it causes their eyes to turn yellow. And there's lots of references on the movies where when somebody's doing something especially evil, their eyes get that yellowy tinge.
And I said it's like a vampire or werewolf.
Yeah.
And I think it's just to show you that
They're
now
bad.
you know they're a bad guy.
And they're tapping into their Super Saiyan powers.
Mm-hmm.
They're evil.
Really, just one letter?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll read the rest on the next.
Well, you didn't say much about that letter.
He read the actual letter. You're supposed to give the insight. You're the sounding board.
I think we should have.
You're the one the fans want to hear from.
Maybe before we talked about Rogue One trailer, because we pretty much hit all those points.
Yeah, it's feedback.
Yeah,
we could have just read his letter instead of our.
Well, we did
assessment
actually
of
read
it.
this letter on the
Rogue
original
One
but
episode.
then our audio stopped, so
Yeah,
we
I know.
had to cut it. So
It's amazing to me, how many details people pick up from that short trailer. I never noticed anything about Forrest Whitaker's suit being like Darth Vader's.
I noticed that.
It was like he was only on there for a flash.
Well, it
Yeah,
had
but that's-
the weird thing under here.
That's how
just-
everything is now. If something is shown, it's shown for a reason. Or
You have to
they pay
stop and
attention to
rewind
detail.
it
You don't
and
have to, but if you want to, there's things for you to discover.
Yeah, there are people that get a lot of enjoyment from doing that, and they know it. So, and it builds hype, and it gets people talking, and that's how they do their advertising.
Right. That's
And
all.
keep people interested in
all the
story.
big serial TV shows, most movies, they all do it. Hide little
Yeah.
nuggets for people to find. Because
All
then
right.
it makes them seem intelligent.
All right.
I think he does seem intelligent.
No, I'm saying the creators. It makes the.
Were you saying I seem intelligent?
No, I see Spidey.
I was talking about the creators of the content, not the people consuming.
Oh,
it.
I see.
So we need to do another episode soon so that we can read all these letters. We'll do a short one, like a comic or something, right?
I don't know what we're doing next.
Yeah, we haven't talked about
We're
it. We'll talk
free
about it. We'll
agents.
talk about it off the air.
I'm currently listening to Weapon of a Jedi.
What's that?
It's that Luke book that came out after A New Dawn.
Oh, I have that. I already listened to it.
Yeah, I'm listening
I could talk
to it
about
now.
that anytime. I
Oh
actually
my
remember a
God.
bunch of
We need
stuff
to read
about
the
that.
comics and get back.
We do. We
We
totally
need to do
do.
that before another book.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do hashtag comic block. Hee hee.
Just tell me what we're doing.
All right. Letters at starwarsnerdsunite.com. If you want to be read on the air 4 episodes after you email in, we'll read your email. No problemo. We are starwarsnerdsunite.com. Go there. Check out our Amazon link.
Did you
Anything you
change the
buy,
webpage?
please. I haven't updated it yet for the visuals. No, I haven't had time. I've been busy.
Yeah.
The Josh updated the Twitter and Facebook, whatever you call them, the landscape images at the top.
Cover
photo. It looks amazing. He used the same idea and scheme of the twin suns and the color scheme that
and we have a lot more
Jesus
stuff to show.
Gonzalez.
We don't have our act together.
Yeah. Well, we're going to work on it this week. Don't you worry, fans. Don't you worry. What else we got to talk about? Follow us on Twitter at StarWarsNU. I'll talk to you. Mason will occasionally. Actually, Jen checks Twitter now on her own. I even removed her account from my phone.
I think we should move that the only format that we will talk about on air is emails.
I think we have to. I don't know how. We have too much feedback. We have to.
We'll try and talk on the other, on Facebook and Twitter. But
Yeah. That's like the way you get instant communication. But if you want on the air, you got to send a letter. It's going to be how it is. All right. That's it, right? We're on BenView Network, Retro Junkies, a lot of great podcasts there. Follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all of them.
For you Lego fans.
And then rate us. Rate us and review us, please.
The big new UCS set this fall is going to be a reissue of the Death Star. Super lame.
It's going to be lame. It's like
it's going to be. It is lame.
Because it's like the open format for it.
It's a complete reissue.
Yeah, that's the worst.
And it just got retired like 18 months ago. There's so many other things they could have done that I would salivate and spend lots of money on.
Yeah, but that one's garbage. Who wants that?
Kids. It's a good play set, but
I've never liked that. Like even when they had toys like that where they'd have the globe and
there's lots of little scenes and
it has an open face on it. Like there's only like a quarter of it that's actually covered.
Right.
It's like, no. If I want Krang's roller earth ball thing,
I want the whole ball.
I want the whole ball.
Right.
Egads. Or Batman's Batcave.
Some kids just want to know what's inside.
Let it be enclosed. Let me be able to open it, but let me close it.
That's difficult to engineer and have cost.
I don't care.
Well,
it's what I want.
Nobody's going to buy $1,000 Death Star Lego.
You would.
No. Well, I wouldn't buy $1,000 one.
We got your Star Destroyer on really big sale.
Yeah. That's back in the dark times when they couldn't. The most expensive Lego on the face of the earth is the UCS Millennium Falcon. It retailed for $400.
That was what your Star Destroyer was.
Right. That's what the Star Destroyer retailed for $299 MSRP.
No, it was more.
I know. Trust me. I know these things.
Okay.
The Millennium Falcon, there were, for like a year period, they could not sell them. They were stocked on the shelves at Toys R Us at 50% off, 60% off. People would not buy them because it was during the period of time when there's this period where Lego just tanked and there was no market for it. Well, now if you have a new in-box UCS Falcon, it sells for $4,000 to $5,000. You could have bought it off the shelf for $150. They would have begged you to buy it at that price.
Strange times we live in.
Right.
All right.
And now they're just putting out.
We got to go. Jenny's about to flip the table.
You could have left a while ago.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Did you hear that? We're doomed.
This podcast is a part of the BenView Network.
You can find this and other podcasts like it at benviewnetwork.com.
He just anonymously said, Tim's an idiot.
You're wrong. You're so wrong.